All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been about 8 days since Angelica ASMR basically announced that she would be leaving the internet for quite some time, leaving behind her ASMR content to just kind of focus on life. This is, of course, after dropping a 50-minute video where she basically called out a whole bunch of other creators and also made some very serious SA allegations. Angelica has returned with yet another video titled A Sincere Apology, Not ASMR. Another 25-minute video.
This sort of like peaceful, caring, loving spark that seems to have burnt out a couple years ago. And I started noticing what it was that people were saying. There's a group of people who are genuinely sad that my sweetness is gone and that it was replaced with bitterness and anger and wrath. And that's something I wanted to apologize for.
Where she actually apologizes for a few things and talks about a lot more things that people in the ASMR community, former fans of Angelica, maybe even current fans of Angelica, have had questions about things that people thought she would have addressed again in that 50-minute video that she ended up posting. She ended up taking it down, editing some stuff out, posting it again, taking it down again, and it's now up again, it looks like. That was posted 10 days ago, so it's been almost 2 weeks of crazy shenanigans in the ASMR community. And Angelica has finally decided to respond truthfully, at least in my opinion, and address some of the more serious things, even basically admitting that, yeah, she was in a bad state of mind throughout the past few years of her cancellation, as you would say.
These past couple of years, I've been speaking from a lot of pain, a lot of bitterness, a lot of rage, a lot of anger, and there's just no need. It's pretty much turned me into its slave. It's like I can feel it being like a puppet master, and I just feel controlled. I've said and done things that I can come to regret, and it seems like the things that I've said and done have been said and done in reaction to things.
The things that we've been looking at Angelica for on this channel for quite some time, basically videos of her saying like homophobic things, transphobic things, calling out ASMR creators, calling out other creators, posting things on her Instagram and whatnot. What people would basically consider like her Kanye West style crash out and meltdown. She has addressed and finally talked about. It actually brought up how, the passing of her mother has led to a lot of this, as well as, at the lowest point of her life when she was, in an abusive relationship, leading to her needing friends. None of them came. Right? Obviously very sad.
Between 2019 and 2023, the VidCon thing happened, which kind of jolted my nervous system. A couple months later, my mom was diagnosed with early stage cancer, breast cancer. The pandemic then immediately hit. The person that I was seeing at the time, unfortunately, became physical against me. 1 week after he began, my mom passed away. And I found it very hard to break up with him because I no longer had the one person in my life that was my rock. And my mom did not pass away from cancer. She passed away from the medication. They had overprescribed her medication, and she had died suddenly and mysteriously. That continued hurting me a couple months after my mother passed away until I had to run away to another state. I underwent 3 medical emergencies, including impacted wisdom teeth that I had removed. Then they got somehow infected, so my throat closed up. And I had to spend a week in a hospital where I was just drinking soup. And despite the fact that I had helped so many people, despite the fact that I had a huge audience of people that were just super supportive, I was alone in the hospital. I kept begging anyone to visit me, anyone to be there. And they all had other plans. They all had better things to do. For years, there was no one. The only people who were around were basically just asking for money or asking for a place to stay.
And again, despite your thoughts on Angelica, right, whether you think this apology is, of course, real, whether you think it's going to actually hold any ground, Obviously, I think that what she continues this point on after this video, like I accept her apology. I'm not the type who's gonna hold a grudge against someone forever again. I don't even know this woman personally. A lot of you probably don't. 99% of you don't know this person. Again, it comes down to an ASMR YouTuber who people have parasocially begun to like attach themselves to and enjoy their content for years. I accept her apology, and I think that what she continues to post is going to justify if this apology is authentic or not. But based on what she's saying and how she's describing a lot of things and what she continues to describe, such as, you know, associating these bad people with certain political beliefs, right? Like, let's say every person in the ASMR community she's associated with was a leftist. She's going to associate leftism with bad thoughts.
That experience I took the wrong lesson from. The resentment made me think, well, it's a political thing then. Anyone who espouses this brand of politics automatically now is fake, and I don't want anything to do with them because I don't trust them. But the more I've reached a sense of peace, the more I keep reflecting on Christ and his message, the more I keep recognizing sins and mistakes within myself, within those that think like myself, within everyone around me, the more I realize it doesn't matter what a person thinks or believes, or like what politics they hold. It's just character. It just boils down to character. I was too traumatized to have that sober thought because I was in such a survival mode, such survival instincts, that I just wanted to scream at the void and get anyone that reminded me of those people away from me because I was scared. I was just absolutely tired. But it was wrong with me.
That's going to be up to you whether you think that's like an appropriate apology. I accept it. I think we all as humans make mistakes and we all can improve and grow from that, which is why I've decided to like focus on this part of the video first before we dive into like some of the other sillier things, because I do think that Angelica has taken time to process her own life. You know, throughout this video, it seems like there are points where I'm waiting for a tear to drop or something. She probably had time to kind of think this through and sit it through. Again, it's been years since her like first cancellation. So she probably doesn't care that much anymore. But again, I think this video feels very sincere. Now, the part that I skipped of the video is basically her talking about some of the other points in her video where she's talking about Elise, for example, who has also put out a statement talking about this situation where they ended up meeting. Elise was angry because Angelica ghosted her and she was out of like $500 and whatnot. They both have different sides of the story. Again, go watch Angelica's like full apology if you want to understand the concept behind that. A lot of it just boils down to a misunderstanding apparently between both of them of what exactly was going to happen during this little meet and greet event. Angelica also did accuse her of basically using her for clout and stealing her content. I'm not sure how I would feel if I was in Elise's situation and someone I thought was a friend basically accused me of all that stuff, but who am I to judge? She also does end up going into the GoodnightMoon situation. Again, the essay. She kind of doubles down on this idea that this was indeed SA, despite a lot of the claims from GoodnightMoon and PJ Dreams, both of the people involved in this three-way action. She clarifies that this was indeed SA still. So I guess we kind of have to wait to see what comes from that, if anything.
As for GoodnightMoon, my commentary stands. That one is honest to the bone. The fact that she changed her story 3 times only makes me more solid in my conviction that my story not only is true, but the details that I don't know about were probably worse than I thought. Especially since both she and PJ confirmed that even beforehand she was targeting me. And I'm like, I wasn't even aware of that.
Despite both of them giving like different sides of the same story, again, it's a he said, she said type of thing. 2 people are saying it wasn't SA, 1 person is saying it was SA. So it truly comes down to like who is going to be believed. And if someone like GoodnightMoon is going to be willing to, take legal action against this pretty serious claim, whether it's true or not. She then ends up going into her comments about like OF girls slash sex workers, again, in reference to people like Diddley ASMR, as well as, of course, some of her like past comments she's made on her video essay channel where she calls out like OF and adult work and whatnot for exploiting younger people.
When it comes to sex workers, I must clarify. When it comes to the people, I don't judge them. I have no judgment in my heart for them. They are doing what they need to do in hard circumstances and hard times. That being said, anyone who normalizes the industry to other women, I see as very dangerous and irresponsible, and I see that as being cruel. And vice versa, I see any woman who uses child motifs or child themes to promote their adult content, I see as also being absolutely reprehensible. You are backstabbing the most vulnerable people in our community, which are children. So for those two groups, I have no apologies for them.
Which, again, I've always kind of stood by the idea that, yeah, she can have that opinion. It doesn't really affect me. Of course, if you are an OF girl, adult content creator, you're going to feel differently. But just personally to me, I'm not going to, pearl clutch if somebody doesn't support that kind of stuff. I mean, they're allowed and entitled to do that. I personally just don't stand with the idea that Diddley was, again, creating content trying to, like, make herself look young to appeal to creepy old men. To me, that's just stretching it. Yes, she does look cutesy. Yeah, she had braces for a little bit of time. Yeah, she wears like pink little tight clothes and whatnot, and she's cosplayed as Belle Delphine. I truly am just not going to stand behind the idea of her doing like basically real life age play. Now, this is where I'm going to wrap up the video, I think, or at least covering the response, because a lot of it just goes into like her Christian faith and whatnot, and how people said she couldn't be a Christian, which I don't agree with, actually. I think it's interesting, and people can say like, huh, that's a little interesting. Like if you did this, you becoming that's a little, it's interesting to talk about and think about, but I think if she's truly committed to her faith and whatnot, and she's willing to apologize and make a true attempt to be sorry and to truly, spread God's message and whatnot. Despite myself not being very religious, I support her on that journey. Again, as someone who you could consider like a snarker who's been covering this chick since the beginning of like the drama, I don't dislike Angelica. I think she was a funny, quirky little character. And I'm glad to finally know that I feel bad that like obviously bad things happen to her. But it feels good to know that there was a reason, if that makes sense. It feels good to know that Angelica's not an evil person. I never truly thought she was an evil person, right? She hasn't hurt anyone besides with words. She has made mistakes. It seems like she's truthfully trying to come back from that. Her fans may not come back. Again, she's made it clear that she wanted to distance herself from those people, as well as other people in the ASMR community who used her and were not there for her when she needed them, right? This happens. Bridges burn, bridges fall, through time and whatnot. I don't have a lot to really add here. I think that Angelica, if she's truly willing to continue on her journey, spreading God's gospel and being a person to, of course, use her free speech to spread her ideas, if they are not harming people, right? Like, I don't care if she's talking about how OnlyFans exploits people. That's her opinions, right? Where you cross the line is where you're talking about, like, homophobic things and mocking Islam and mocking like Muslim people and stuff. That's where I kind of like, that's not really funny or cool. Yeah. I'm gonna wrap the video up here. Let me know what you guys think down below about this apology. If you think it's genuine, if you support what you had to say, again, check it out. It's gonna be linked below. I appreciate you guys watching my kind of like summary of this whole thing. Bye.